and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, how did this happen? How did we get here? How long will we have to endure? Why this? Why now? Why didn't we see this coming? Why us? When did things become so difficult? When will we know? What's going to happen next? Where do we go? What do we do now? Who's going to help us? Who, what, when, where, why, and how? How long? How could it be? How unfortunate? How come? Well, these are all questions that we ask when we are in need of a comeback. When we find ourselves in need of a great comeback, we cry out because there's often confusion and disappointment and hardship. Things are not as we planned or not what we hoped for. Something has gone awry. And whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, something sets us back. Something knocks us down. Something has us on the backside of nowhere. Those were the opening words of a sermon series about great comebacks that I delivered to the church way back at the beginning of our pandemic last year. And in trying to encourage people to persevere through the unexpected, unparalleled time, I preached about God's help in our own great comeback story from this period of pandemic. And back then, at that time, I didn't really realize the time frame and the full scope of such an unparalleled event. Now, more than a year later, we are finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Praise God. And we're finally entering into our great comeback. It seems to be at hand. But we're not quite there yet all the way, since this Memorial Day recognition is again being presented virtually this year. But take heart. The end of the battle is at hand. But with any great comeback victory comes great sacrifice. The pandemic brought to light this issue of sacrifice in an extremely dramatic way this past year. Folks were separated, freedoms were threatened, casualties mounted. A great comeback often takes its toll in more ways than we could have ever imagined. And in any time of crisis or dilemma, when dreams are dashed and all looks helpless and hopeless, we often turn to the Psalms, right? The psalmists give us a raw picture of the emotion of anguish and concern. In the Psalms, we're allowed to cry out to God for help. Crying out to God is a starting point of our great comebacks. We cry out with all of our questions. Why, O Lord? How long? O God, how long? When, O God, when? Where, O God, where? And we acknowledge God when we cry out to Him. A cry to God is a prayer. It's actually an act of worship, right? Acknowledging that God is there and that He can see our dilemma. He understands our needs. He hears our prayers. And so for more than a year, we have been praying for this great comeback. And I believe it is at hand. But this past year, we've all related to the kind of experience of being down and out, in need of a comeback. We have all experienced disappointment and grief. We've experienced setbacks. We've all experienced things that have been totally out of our control. And so in this time of trial, we've been knocked down in one way or another. All of us, somehow, we've all looked forward to our great comeback. A comeback that has also included great sacrifice while persevering. When a difficult season descends upon us, sometimes we're there for a short period of time. But there are other times. It seems like we find ourselves in that season for what feels like forever. This pandemic period has seemed long. That's why Psalm 27 says to seek the Lord when we need help. The psalm ends by saying, wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart. Right? Perseverance will take great sacrifice. Well, this Memorial Day weekend, I think that we're able to think more deeply about the sacrifice that it takes to face the enemies of our lives and of our country. Our freedom is precious. Our way of life is a privilege. And so this weekend, we once again pause in gratitude and respect to honor and to pay tribute to all those who gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives in fighting the good fight for all of our great comeback battles against oppressions that vie to upend all that we hold dear in life. On Memorial Day weekend, we remember people who wore military uniforms that represent our country. And we remember veterans who fought against those who tried to take our freedoms away. And at the very heart of it all, we honor, remember, and thank those who died that we may live. As Americans, it is good for us to have a holiday that reminds us that the freedoms we enjoy are freedoms that have been earned by others. We remember those who sacrificed greatly for us. And this year, as we come back from a great trial and tribulation, we may have a greater appreciation of sacrifice and what it takes to persevere on to victory. We realize that such a victory often takes much longer than expected and requires so much more than what's originally asked of us. If not, it wouldn't be a sacrifice, right? And so, to all those soldiers who have sacrificed their lives for us over the years in order to persevere and preserve the freedoms of our way of life, we do give thanks to their sacrifice that has also helped provide the groundwork for all other great comebacks to be realized. We owe a tremendous debt of gratitude and respect. And so, as we emerge again in great sacrifice and victory in this, our current great comeback from a period of pandemic, may we understand the true virtue of sacrifice even more deeply. And because of that, may we stand more humbly in the great memorial shadows of those who have paved our way to freedom and to victory by way of the greatest sacrifice given, their very lives for others. My name is David McGrath, and I am the pastor of York United Methodist Church, and it is a true honor to once again participate in our annual York Township Memorial Day service, even here virtually online again this year. But my hope and my prayer and my great expectation is that we will be able to gather again next year together in person to remember the sacrifices of all those who died in order to preserve our lives and the lives of the generations to come. God bless you.
strive for justice and peace. Those who work each day to protect us, come stand with the brave. Come stand with the brave who fight for freedom on these shores and far across the seas. Those who pledge their lives to protect us, come stand with the brave. Their courage strengthens us, their service teaches us, and we are humbled by the sacrifice they give. Come stand with the brave who've gone before us, facing foes and dangers unknown. Those who gave their all to protect us, come stand with the brave. Come stand with the brave. Come stand with the
Hello, I'm Ruth Brintnall, a longtime York Township resident, and even though we're not able to be together for the Memorial Day Parade this year, we will all be thinking of the meaning of Memorial Day. I remember when the original committee that planned this parade decided they weren't able to continue. I said to my husband, Don, we can't let this happen. It's the only thing the township does together. So 50 or so years ago, he and Buzz Cormany, John Evan, Jim B. Shire, Willard Barco, and others from York Church, together with the York Township trustees, formed a new committee, and I'm thankful for the community's support that still continues today. The parade kicked off at York Church, and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, Sunday School children and youth, Sheriff's Mounted Units, the Earhart Fire and Rescue, Old Phoenix National Bank Stagecoach, and classic cars with honored guests, decorated bikes, wagons, and strollers all marched to the cadence of the Buckeye Junior High Band as community members lined the parade route to York Cemetery. The honor girl and escort placed flowers on the Veterans Memorial at the Town Hall and at the flagpole at the cemetery, following the flag raising by Scouts. The roster of township veterans was read, and honored speakers voiced messages of sacrifice for our freedoms. The VFW provided a gun salute. The band performed and taps were played while children placed flowers donated by Barco's Greenhouse on the veterans' grave sites to honor the men and women who helped defend our country. The parade now ends back at the York Township Park with refreshments by the fire department and the York Historical Society. We may not march this year, but we will remember the reasons for Memorial Day in our hearts and in our prayers.
Soldiers of World War II. Clyde Crum, Malin Culp, Arthur Lane, Gerald Voorhess, Robert Walling, James Lyon, Woodrow Bright, Richard Lyon, Vernon Daniels, George Staton, Ralph Mills, Bernard Wilson, Herbert Sumney, Ernest Sanzislo, Ezra Hayes, Guy Penrose, James Dunkel, Philip Schwartz, Calvin Kemp, Ralph Yeager, Claude Timmons, Harold Mills, Carl Topper, Fred Stanko, Henry Nipple, Dorothy Yoder, George Pappenhausen, Ralph Legg, Thomas Cooperthwaite, Howard Spice, Frank Demchek, Raymond Hubler, Elmer Walden, William Miles Baker, Stuart F. Faunce, Raymond E. Hewitt, Herbert Wurstel, Dale Hathaway, John M. Maresh, Michael L. Barron, Letha Failer, William Taft Adams, Willis Tucker, Richard Schell, James Farley, Frank McCloskey, Ivan A. Smith, Lester Potts, Alice Potts, Henry Northey, Richard Mole, Leonard Parfit, Dale Mann, Byron Yoder, Lawrence Beck, Farron D. Irish, W. B. Wolfe, Lawrence Gellis, Samuel Olds, Benjamin Schipferling, Thomas P. Stieber, Ernest Paul, Frank A. Smith, William Bill Davis, Kenneth Meeks, William Elsie Skaggs, Joseph Lenarth, Ira Porterfield, Virgil Justice, George Christian, Larry Lee Adams, Joseph Drasney, Crellin Hopkins Sr., Norman Hedinger, Ralph White, Louis Stevens, John Walden, William Zweifel, Robert C. Wagner, Ray Norris, Ernest Kazian, Elliot Mann, Bert Keneally, Everett E. Adams, Curtis Adelbert Coleman, Deaver Wood, Dwayne Nafsker, Paul E. Lyons, Marilyn Nafsker, William Bettner, William Spieth Walter, Harold Yeager, Irvin Seeley, Kenneth D. Alexander, Leslie V. Stallmaker, Paul Birch, James Menley, Hobart Kearns, Charles Williams, Homer Newcomer, Eugene Bowers, James L. Johnson, Raymond Hubler, Paul Steingass, Earl Feist, William Strittmatter, Joseph Wittenhaffer, Clyde Lettner, Arthur Schwartz, Charles Rettig, James L. Johnson, Ulysses E. Simpson, Charles J. Lance, Howard Daughtry, Gloria Leeworthy, Burton D. Donahue, George H. Ellswick, Charles Wagner, Clarence Schmeidel, Joseph Frank Bova, Virgil L. Justice, Frank C. Ehrman, Steve Dyna, Charles Buzz Cormany. Soldiers from World War II buried in Ohio Western Reserve National Cemetery: Emil Evan, Francis Evan, Mike Trelenick. Soldiers of the Korean War: Bobby Lettner, Louis Mellert, William T. Wolfe, Chelsea Bales, Richard Hendrickson, William E. McDonnell, Frank Peltka, William Carver, Robert Moskal, Van Miller, George Smith, Ralph Kissamore, Richard Court, John Donaeus, James Massey, Emil Helmers, Fred Timko, Ernest Sanzislo, Chas D. Hewitt, W. B. Wolfe, Richard Bowers. Soldiers of the Vietnamese conflict: Jack Hatfield, Donald Wolfe, Roger Adams, Robert Aycock, Eli Pervin, Peter L. Green, Frank Schmidt, Charles Richard Pendleton, Daniel Boys, Donald Beard, Earl Kanzig, Roger Kemp, Ronald Hamilton, Larry Lee Adams, Raymond Pritchard. Soldiers of the Army of Occupation in Germany: Clifford Graham. Soldiers of Special Services: Ronald Hamilton. Soldiers of Cold War and Peacetime Service: David Cummings Jr., Nick Martin, Thomas Huber, David A. Russ, Don Daig, Jack Dingus, Donald Brintnall, William Lutton, Edward Frombaugh, Franklin Erman, Dwight Simpson, Ralph F. Bishop, Daniel Schneider, Ellen Mellert. Soldiers of Desert Storm: Sandra Kress,